FlatsClass YouTube fans, and welcome back to the channel. This morning you saw that we launched out of the Plantation Inn right here in beautiful Crystal River. And it's that time of year when it's manatee season, so we're going to have a lot of divers in the water. We're going to have a lot of pontoon boats out here with dive flags and snorkelers, so we're going to have to pay attention coming out of here. But I did shake hands and talk with Mike Mankey, the GM, and we're going to come back and grab some lunch with him. But first, I'm going to give you guys some really cool fishing tips. It's springtime, and I figured I'd give you guys a couple of great springtime tips for not only just catching speckled trout, because everyone knows the spawn happens in February and March and early April, but also for snook, redfish that are coming and pouring out of these creeks in the back. So we came out to the mouth of Crystal River where the power plant is, and the first I'm going to say tactic that I'm going to teach you is using a topwater plug. Now, I took my pliers and I mashed the barbs down on all the hooks. It really does not cost you any, I'm going to say, any lost fish if you bend the barbs down. And it's a lot easier to care for the fish once they're boat side. As long as you keep the line taut and a bend in the rod, you're not going to lose fish because you mash the barbs down. I do it on almost all my plugs, or you can go to single inlines. I just feel like your hookup ratio is a little greater initially, especially when you're first starting to use inlines with these trebs that are just mashed barbs down. Now, this is the new Mirrolure Top Dog Junior in the skin series. This is the mullet. This is an 84 MR, weighs about 3/4 of an ounce. So a few weeks ago, I did a video on my favorite Terramar XX rod, which is the 6'9" rod that handles baits that are between 1/4 and 5/8. Well, I also said in that video that you could throw 3/4 ounce topwater plugs, and that's what we're going to do today. Now, I've matched it up in this video with a Shimano DC. This is the 150 XG. It's an 8.5 gear ratio because we're going to be jumping slack. I'm going to teach you how to do that. I've packed it with 30-pound Power Pro Super Slick V2, and down here at the business end, we're going to rig this up. I've got a short piece of 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, a lot of us will use mono leader on these because we don't want it to sink, but my leaders are so short, it's not going to really matter. So I had some 30. I've got about 15 to 16 inches here, and I'm going to tie a loop knot because I want to have a hinging effect. Because we're jumping slack and we're going to be walking the dog with this plug, I want that ease of motion, and I don't want to tie a cinch knot, or a clinch knot for many. So I'm going to make an overhand loop, take the tag in, put it through there, and then I'm going to come right through there so that I have that look. I'm going to cinch it up just a little bit, about the size of a pencil eraser. I'm going to come around the standing line once, twice, and then I'm going to bring it right through that loop right there. Bring that through, tighten it down. Now I'm going to take my nippers here and I'm going to leave a little bit on the tag end. Any fish coming up to smash a topwater, they're not going to be bothered by a longer tag end. So it should look something like that. That'll be nice and strong. Why the stiffer leader, you might ask? It's not because I'm using heavier leader to catch bigger fish. It's because I don't want it to catch that front hook, and stiffer leaders typically won't catch that front hook. That way most of my casts will be less fouled, if you will. So let me show you how we actually utilize this plug so that you can walk it like a pro. Well, I'm going to apologize for the wind noise in the mics. It's been a breezy spring, it really has. But let's get back to this topwater tip. Now, I told you that this Terramar rod was built for a lower weight of 1/4 to 5/8 of an ounce. This is a 3/4 ounce plug. But by looking down the rod, you can see that it doesn't really bend the rod, so it doesn't load the tip when it's at rest and it's hanging below the rod tip here. So I know it can handle this. Now this is a 6'9" rod. There's a reason why I choose rods that are 7 foot or shorter for topwater, and that's so that I can work the plug down. So I'm going to make a cast out here and then I'm going to show you. Cast it with ease, and then I'm going to start working the plug down and jumping slack. So the idea is to pulse the rod, jerk the bait to the side, let there be a little bit of slack, take up some, and then jerk it down again. And when you're working that thing, jumping the slack, it will make that plug walk side to side, which we call walking the dog. But I'm going to put some nuances in it in a minute. Now this is what I mean by jumping slack. See how I'm throwing the tip back toward the bait, and then I'm pulling back away from the bait, and you can see that line is jumping. That jumping gives the bait that side to side signature walk the dog look, and that plug is walking beautifully out there right now. But this rod setup, you'll notice when you use these rods that are in that 6'9" to 7 foot length, I can work the plug down where the line is less affected by the wind. You know, if I was working it up, then the wind would have a more profound effect. And here comes the bait walking in right now. You can see the side to side action. So by creating that dart, 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 walking the dog effect, you can hear that rattle. It draws fish from a distance. It also draws them from a depth. So when I'm throwing this particular plug, the 84 MR from Mirrolure, the Top Dog Junior, I typically throw it in waters that are 2.5 to 6 feet deep to pull fish up. If I'm in shallower water, I might pick something a little less loud. Maybe I would pick the 26 MR, which is a little softer rattle, a little smaller profile, more finger mullet like. But this is perfect in most instances. This is the perfect surface to walk a plug like this. You don't want a real rough, windy day, even though today is quite breezy. I set us up here on a lee bank so that we could work all these grass beds with this plug. There's also other cadences that you can work the plug. Like sometimes I'll walk, 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 and I'll stop it. And I'll let it sit there for 3 seconds, and then I'll start walking it again. It is amazing how many speckled trout will clobber this plug if I stop it. Another technique so that redfish can track this is I'll walk it, walk it, walk it, walk it, maybe 8 feet, and then I'll stop it and I'll just start reeling it slow so it just tracks and makes a little herringbone, I'm going to say, wake across the surface, and then I'll start walking it again. Oftentimes, redfish will respond to that type of retrieve. But if I'm fishing for snook and I know snook are around, I walk it quickly. The pace is not as rhythmic. It's walk, 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 fast as I can. That's why I like having that high speed 8.5 gear ratio. So it gives me the ability to walk it slow and extremely fast when I need to. All right, I'm going to say that the next springtime bait that I really love utilizing, I mean, I leverage this bait in a lot of charters and a lot of television, would have to be the 4-inch Hercules minnow. Now this is a swim bait that we came out with about 1.5 years ago at Z-Man. Comes with a really robust hook. This is one of my favorites for snook especially. You'll notice I've never seen a Hercules with an underspin. Well, we have a TRD underspin at Z-Man, and I just push that bait, that spike, up inside the body so it can be below here. But you could take a split ring plier and attach it right to this second hook attachment underneath the chest, and it would work just as well. This was simple, it was easy, and it gives this bait a little bit more flash. We have more wind today, and we're throwing it in a little bit deeper water. I'm out here in 2.5 to 4 foot of water, and I'm looking for a big trout. I'm looking, because we have high pressure today, I'm looking for the snook to be on these rock banks and reefs out here in a little bit deeper water. Now, to throw one of these, this is only 3/8 of an ounce, but with the hook, I'm going to say, and the TRD spinner and everything, I feel like these things weigh a little more than the 3/8. I think this thing is probably closer to a half. So you're going to have to throw it on a rod. Now I have a 6'10" Zodius here. It throws everything from 3/8 all the way to 1 ounce, and it throws this bait in particular really well. I've got enough tip that it doesn't snap. I have enough tip in this rod where I can really load it and send this jig, this swim bait, down range, but it also acts as a great hook setting rod for me, the 6'10" Zodius, which is more of a medium heavy action rod, because when you get a fish come up over the top of this, that's a pretty big hunk of wire there that you're gonna have to drive that hook in. So I want a rod that has that crispness, that has that robustness, and the Zodius 6'10" from Shimano gets that done. So we talked a little bit about, it's a medium heavy action rod, so it has plenty of tip to drive this thing and really send it. The other thing I really talked about was the fact that when you're retrieving this bait, you've got to have a rod that's robust enough to be able to pull it through the water and then set the hook, because you're going to have to drive that hook through the fish's mouth. Now when I'm fishing for big snook, or I'm throwing this like out here looking for redfish on these reefs, a lot of it has to do with you're making a steady, constant retrieve. So I'm always rolling this bait. This is a big swim bait, and it's called a swim bait because it's supposed to swim. So I'm rolling it at a certain speed, trying to keep it at a certain depth. When a fish comes up behind it and inhales this bait, he's still coming at me. So I'm going to have a reel fast enough to reel to him and then set the hook. And like I said earlier, that is a meaty hook, so it's going to take quite the rod. You cannot throw this bait on a medium action rod. You need to throw this bait on medium heavy, if not heavy. Now there's a few different sizes the Hercules, the Z-Man Hercules comes in. It comes in the 4-inch here, it comes in a 5-inch, and it comes in a 6-inch. And like I said earlier, this underspin is something I added. You can pull it out of the bait. I'll pull it out right now for you and show you, because we use these in all kinds of baits because it's got a little spike there where I can plug it into almost any Z-Man bait. So this is how I run it most of the time. And if I wanted to take the underspin, I could just take my split ring pliers, take it off there, and I could hook it on this hook attachment on the belly, and it would work just as well, maybe even better. But I had one of these in my bag today, and I wanted to show you guys, because when you're fishing at night, or you're fishing in cloudy water, or you're fishing on a blustery day like today, it's nice to have that little bit of extra flash to get an eat. So these first two baits, both the topwater and the swim bait, I like them for covering water. I mean, these are power baits that cast a great distance and allow me to work them back quickly. And in the springtime, when fish are in transition and they're moving from the backs of these creeks in here to the outside, depending on fronts as they move through, you got to cover a lot of water to find them. So topwater baits and big swim baits like this allow me to find the fish quickly, and I feel as if the fish I'm going to catch are going to be the alpha size fish. Now there's another bait, one more, that I want to share with you on this YouTube video. All right, third springtime cover the water bait, especially here in Crystal River. I mean, all the baits that we've talked about thus far work extremely well here in the Crystal River Nature Coast Zone. And here would be my third pick. I like this one, especially on days where it's a little cloudier, a little windier. This is the Aqua Dream Spoon. The Aqua Dream Spoon in the 1/4 ounce size is perfect. It's much smaller than the first two baits I talked about, so that you still need a bait that can cover water, still throws vibration and flash out there, yet it's small enough that even on the tough days it can get whacked. This is it. Now there's a variety of colors in this lure. You can get it in white, a white spoon, a black spoon, a watermelon red spoon. They've got them in chrome and gold naturally. They even have the live bait series spoons that look like actual fish. Pink, which is a big favorite up here, and this chartreuse. Actually, this Mountain Dew looking spoon has become maybe my favorite one here in the Crystal River area, and does really well for me. Sometimes I'll even add a piece of yellow yarn I'll tie on the back here just to give it kind of a dressing, almost like a little trailer, and it does extremely well here, especially for redfish, but I've caught plenty of snook on this spoon. So if you look behind me, you can see all these rocks. And when I start fishing around the rocks, I know as the water comes up, which it's trying to do right now, I can throw a spoon and catch redfish. Now I can't control what size, because you'll catch redfish up to 3 feet long on this same spoon, but oftentimes when I fish these rocky reefs on flood, I catch a lot of fish that are what I would call slot redfish, 18 to 25 inches long, pretty common here at the mouth of the river. Right there. Spoon fishing, it works. So you can see how ramshackle and rocky and craggy it is behind me, and how this spoon negotiates all that, never getting hung up, and being able to fish, and catch nice redfish along the rocks, especially as cold as it is. You can't really get out and fish a lot of zones, but here you can get something done. So let's get this guy back in the water so that you can catch him when you come visit the plantation. All right, buddy, off you go. Well, pretty chilly day out here on the water, but once you get up here in the springs, there's plenty of action going on with the snorkelers and all the manatee seers. But I think we're going to go put it on the trailer. We're going to go up inside. We're going to have a little she crab soup at the plantation, and maybe a sandwich as well, and call it good. Hopefully you enjoyed these 3 wonderful tips that I share with you today for this area here on the Nature Coast. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, subscribe now. Hit that button, give us the thumbs up, and become one of my students in my virtual classroom right here at FlatsClass YouTube.